Okay, so I have a number of videos that I've shot, but I think I've lost. If I find them, I will upload them, but if not, then they're gone. But, which I think I do have them. I think they're all just on my SD card, which I hope is still in this camera. No. So, let's talk about about black people, fake students, and impossible ideas. So we're gonna talk about it's all related. So Tuesday night, I'm walking around doing some fuck shit. Rock around the campus, university campus. Penn campus is actually really small. They just own a lot of buildings in the city. But the campus is literally just a line, just down Locust Walk. You go from like the intersection that's like by the Starbucks, you walk all the way down, you go over the bridge and you'll get to like the shopping strip of like the shoe store, the bookstore, the Qdoba, and like there's a movie theater across the street. Then there's an Acme. And then there's a McDonald's now, which is a terrible fucking decision to put there, but whatever. So yeah, I'm walking around, kind of near where the McDonald's is. I see a bunch of like cops show up. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I continue walking, but my curiosity is still piqued because I'm like, I want to know what the fuck's going on. So walk my ass all the way back. Okay. To see what's going on, and I see it's a 6'3", dressed in all black man who is upset about something. And then you have the Penn police. It's just only Penn police, actually. None of the city police showed up. They're just all... The guy's only interacting with one officer. The other officer's just kind of standing around to make sure nothing else happens. And then there's a lady who is kind of near the guy, like telling him, calm down, blah, 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 blah. And I'm kind of sitting there watching it happen. I'm just like, this is interesting. So it's piqued my interest, and I sit down on the curb, and I continue watching. At some point, the lady crosses the street, and the guy's still arguing and yelling at the cops. The cop is very gracious with him. He's just like, yo, man, what? Like, I mean, you're a university police officer. Like, you're not going to shoot anybody. You may have to arrest somebody one time, maybe, but, like, generally, the guy was pretty chill. And if I were being completely, like, more honest with you, I guess, like, this guy was, like, in the officer's face, and, like, the officer wasn't really fazed. He wasn't, like, didn't seem scared or whatever. So it was just, like, so the student liberal ideal, like, all, whatever. I can understand the idea of why that would be a thing, but I think on a university campus it's a little bit different. Alright, anyway. Yeah, still yelling, still arguing. The lady comes across the street where I am, and then she's kind of like talking in like my general direction, but like I like look over and like we make eye contact and she's talking. And she's like, man, this is why they think of us like this, because people be doing dumb shit like this. Which is a whole nother point I'll get into either in this video or another one. But anyway, we continue talking, and she's like, man. And she kept going like this to the cops, just telling, hey, just arrest him, whatever. And she was like, I'm tired of dealing with this shit. Because I guess, according to her, it happens every so often. And like, at one point, she was like, man, fuck it, I'm going to leave. And then she continues walking, and she stops, and she comes back, tries to get the guy to go. Eventually, all the cops leave, and then the cop that was talking to the guy ends up crossing the street again, and like talks to the lady, and he's like kind of joking with her. He's like, man, you gotta get your man, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, man, I'm tired of this shit. You lock his ass up. He was joking about it. She was joking about it. Eventually, the guy kind of calmed down, or the officer ended up leaving. The guy tried to like kind of go towards that officer's car and like yell at him some more or something. And then the lady's like, man, get your shit together and let's go. And so eventually they ended up leaving. And like, I still hung around, and eventually I was just like, the guy comes up to me and he like shakes my hands, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know, like whatever. I sat there and watched the whole confrontation thing. I talked with the lady. She was really nice. And the man had a substance abuse issue going on, but it wasn't to the point of like Palm Beach County, isn't that in Florida? It is. It wasn't. I wasn't gonna say it was a big contributing factor to the commotion, but it wasn't like, I don't know. It just made him rowdy. If anything, right? As we're walking, they asked me, hey, how are you? Blah blah blah. I'm like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And like, at this point, he and I are engaging, and we're just having a conversation, and like. He's saying a bunch of funny shit, and then his wife just kind of laughing, and I'm just like, all right, whatever, this is funny. Can you continue walking across the street? Eventually, we sit on a bench. We're talking, like, he's still very much intoxicated, but you can still like make out what he's saying and like all this other stuff, and like I'm not afraid of somebody who's intoxicated. And like. We just have this conversation thing, and like he's like, oh man, you like it turns out he's also a veteran as well. He was in the Army. I wasn't sure for how long, but he was in the Army, and he had a veterans appointment the next day for something, which then got into my mind of a whole different thing of like veterans coming out of the military, substance abuse, and things of that nature. Anyway, we're talking, we're hanging out, we're talking, blah. He's like, oh, come on, let's get a drink. I was like, oh, man, it's too late. I'm too tired. I was like, oh, come on, get a drink. And his wife's like, man, he's got to go. I'm like, I don't know. Overall, we're like sitting there. We talk for an hour, whatever. I give him my phone number. He gives me his, and he also gives me $30. Whatever. And his wife, as he's giving it to me, his wife's just like, I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. But yeah, dude was fine, whatever. He, they asked me like, whoa, what do you do? I was like, oh, I just go to school here, Penn. She's like, oh, like she thought it was really cool. He was like, oh, that's cool, whatever. But anyway, so now that that's done, that whole story's done. I said fake students as well. I don't know what I said in the beginning. So fake students. So in my career as a human being, and as a student actually, you hear all this talk about, oh God, what do you hear talks about? Okay, I know how to express this really well. Throughout the career of being a student and throughout the careers of being an American, there's this big giant hubbub talking about black men, right? It's always a big subject, or it's not really a big subject, it's just a big talking point that people like to talk about, right? They're like, oh my gosh, black men go through this, they go through that, they go through this, they go through that, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, sure, whatever. Obviously it's true in some cases, and like, some people seem to use that as some college students, or just students in general, seem to use that as their weapon of choice per se, when they want to show that they know so much about something or another ethnic group. They're like, oh, well, black men go through this, they go through that, they go through this, they go through that. And like, for me it's kind of annoying, because it's like, I feel like they only read about these things in the context of like either after a shooting or after a shooting, or when like it really became, I don't want to use the word popular because I think that's disingenuous, but it became more of a societal need to read about other people's ethnic groups and things of that sort, or other people's experiences in America, right? And I feel like all the people who talk about these things would actually never really go to and engage with those people that they talk about. Specifically, black men, because I don't know if you know this, but they're very scary. Boo. it's kind of a reality of life, right? It's like a, I don't really care how much somebody says that they're going to talk about these sorts of racial things or all this racial stuff. Like, I personally am not going to count on you, another person who's not this, me, I should say. Especially if you're talking about it a lot and that's like the only thing that you focus on in class or whatever. Like, something's not right with you. It just does not feel like I understand it's important and I understand a lot of it's true, but I feel like it's also being used as a sort of thing to make people feel like they know something, and the thing that they know is something that is new or something. I don't know how to explain this in a very good way. Anyway, this related to that story because I'm in social work school. Social work school, we talk about, Jesus, God have mercy, a lot of ants in here. We talk about a lot of black people and like what black struggles are. And it's all very, they think it's sad. I think it's normal. And like all this other stuff, like I don't know, like it's weird being one of the only 2 Negro men in the program, and like people continue to talk about. I'm gonna give you another example. So there's a student in my program who does not like me in any way, shape, or form. Why? I don't know. Could be a host of reasons, but when I'm in this class with this individual, they always point out that like black men go through this, black men go through that, and it always feels a little bit disingenuous because they treat me like shit. But they can just sit there and have a whole dialogue thing of like saying how much they care or like how much showing off how much they know about a specific individual group or whatever, right? And it's kind of annoying. It's just like, I don't know. There's something between knowing something and then there's something between acting on what you know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being a dick. I was connecting to 2 stories because, one, I feel like anyone else in my program would not have stuck around and watched that. 2, in regards to this is why they think about us that way. I've had, one other instance of that sort of thing happen while here in Philadelphia, and that was at work. I'm not going to get into it, but essentially my boss, who was also black, told the guy who was stealing, who was also black, man, get a fucking job. This is why they think of us that way. And I think it's a very big, I think, A, it's not an accident that both of those instances involved a man who was black. And then B, I think it's an undertone of a realization that me not being from the city, I really wouldn't know, but I also understand and like have that same feeling about things when I see things of like, someone shot somebody else and who's the shooter? Oh, it's a black person, right? And so this idea that like one person of an ethnic group or race or whatever is responsible for all of them. And I feel like this has just been going on with black people for billions of years. Here in the United States at least, maybe not in Africa or whatever. But I think Muslims went through that whole same thing during 9/11. Yeah, it's just it's an annoying, strange. It's not strange. It's not strange. It's. I think it's cool. No. Oh no, I think it's cool to have my biases confirmed living in another place, because I always felt like a little bit crazy thinking like, well, not everybody thinks like this, right? Not everybody sees it like, oh, if one black person does something then they all do something like that, blah 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 blah. Because I lived in Snowman Land, which was essentially a city that was extremely liberal, right? But then when you go to a city that is, why are you fucking back, bro? Fuck you. When you go to a city that's on its face liberal, but has a lot of perceiving front problems that are all the problems are black, you have the ones who are extremely poor and homeless, and you have the ones that are kind of in the middle. They're like in between one bad day from being homeless and one good day from being, they're just one bad day from being homeless. And then you have the rich ones who don't live anywhere near the city or anything like that. They live out in the burbs, they call it. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so the ones that are one bad day from being homeless have an expectation of keeping the ones who are homeless in line, and then the ones that are out in no man's land don't really give a shit about anything because they don't live anywhere. They don't live near whatever the problem is that is in the city of Philadelphia. One other thing is I think that there's amongst younger students, or young students, or just students in general. So I've come up with this theory. The theory is because if you were born and raised and lived in the suburbs your entire life, you're going to be more fragile than somebody who was born in the city, in the inner city. Maybe this is not a theory, maybe this is well known, but this is just what I think. Now for me, if I'm going to put myself in this situation, while I was born, I have a fucky situation because I was born, I moved around a bunch, and then I got placed in a home. Then I moved around a bunch within that home. So I've seen all aspects of life from all different areas. I've seen country white hick life. I've seen suburban shithead life. I've seen more country white hick life. I've seen... God, let's see. I've lived in a mixed city, I guess. I don't know. Like, I went to a school, like, a majority of my schools I went to were, like, mixed race. I think mostly, though, primarily Hispanic. So, but, like, a lot of people of color everywhere. An example would be in high school, we had this thing, because none of us were racist, but all of us were acknowledging the stupid shit that happens within our own communities. We would make fun of each other. So, like, we'd make fun of Mexican kids for having a lot of kids. They'd make fun of black people for stealing. They'd make fun of white people for being boring. Make fun of Asians for not being able to drive. Things like that. Like, that's what we did. That's how we... Like, I remember I held a whole roast session in 9th grade English class. The kids were fucking laughing. Thank God Mr. Jones wasn't there. But I was so good at it. But yeah, that's what we did. Like, none of it was malice seeking. Like, I don't know. But also, kids today will take things and, like, really bully you with it. Like, because when I moved out from that school to a essentially all white school, like, let's see, there was me, and then there was, like, 2 Mexican people, and then there was, like, a black guy. I don't know what my race, I think it was black, I don't know. Anyway, this was a school of, like, 800 people, and those were the 1, 2, 3, 4 colored people in the school. So, yeah, anywho, yeah, and so there it was like a little bit more pressed towards malice versus non-malice because it's not made in jest, it's made to hurt, if that makes sense. And granted, even in like the before the moving and in another area, like, oh, never mind, fuck it. Anyway, yeah, so one, I think that people use the conversation of black men as a badge of honor rather than a thing that they actually care about. 2, you don't actually have to care about it at all. I just don't think you should talk about it if you don't want to talk about it. I think people force themselves to talk about it. 3, I think people force themselves to talk about it because of what's going on today. But I think a lot of it comes from disingenuous people who, yes, vote a way that would seem favorable towards black people, but then in reality don't really want to associate with them or see them as like they won't see them as like a blight, but they won't see them as like a people. I feel like in some cases, this is an example of like when I lived in another city, I felt like they were replacing black people with Africans. Now, before you get all upset, fuck you if you did, I don't care. The idea is that like you can't, it's like the great replacement theory, kind of. Maybe it's not. I don't even know what that theory is, but I think by the term of it, it's just like you're replacing. The term of the great replacement is a whole bunch of people from another country replacing people of another country. So, like, it's not colonization. It's something more racially coded and things like that. Anyway, so my thing in my head that I'm trying to get out is that people will use other black people or just people of the same skin tone who have different values of like education and things like that. So like the real American dream people of like, oh, you gotta go to school, you gotta work hard, gotta do this, that. Like they always go to school, blah, blah, blah. They have high expectations. They beat the shit out of their kids if they don't do anything right. But then you have American and like American black people who like there are variations to things, just like there are variations to everything else. But their variations are like, they only see one part of the variation and not like... Okay, so they're going to replace the poor black people with the African people, but they're going to keep the middle class and the rich black people because those ones are the good ones, right? So that's the point I'm trying to make. Okay, so there's that. People talk about things that they don't mean it, or but they don't show what they talk, but they don't act what they talk about things in a positive light, but they don't act that way outside of what they're talking about. That was lame. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. I guess I was going to talk about veterans and... Sorry, the camera died again. This battery pack sucks. Talk about veterans and substance abuse. It was the first veteran I've met in the past 2 days. I went to the bar yesterday, had a drink, and the guy next to me and his friend and the other friend on the other side, they were just like all hanging out, having fun. I showed up. This is a bar I go to all the time, so everybody knows me except those 3 people because I've never met them before. And it's a guy's birthday. Turns out he's also a veteran. He went to Afghanistan. He was an infantryman, which is the people who like go in and do all the hard shit that nobody wants to do, but they do it anyway, which I find to be insane. Yeah, and like just I was telling this guy about like what I watched the movie Warfare literally that same day, right? And or maybe it was the day before. It was the day before. So on Wednesday I watched Warfare. Thursday I got drunk at the bar with the guy, and Friday's today. So, I was telling him how like I wanted friends like they have in the military of the brotherhood, essentially is what they talked about, or how they say it, I guess. Because in my life, I would say that I know people, and then they leave, or I'm just really, I don't know. I think people are fucking stupid. That's my general thing. I fucking hate individuals. I can't stand to be around them, but I want to be around them. But I just like, you suck. I don't want to be around you. You kind of suck. You're not good at anything. And I was kind of telling him like, oh my gosh, if I was able to do something like that, I'd have a bunch of people together all the time. And he's like, yeah, sure, but like, he was essentially trying to tell me that the way I got my education and how I was able to get a master's in something is something to not just be about, is to be something proud about. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. Because, and then I think the other point he was also making was like, you're going to find people outside. Oh, that's right. Because it was him and then the other guy that quasi worked there. they were like, you're gonna find people outside of your schooling because it's a lot easier to find people outside of your schooling than it is in your schooling. Well, yes, you can find people in school, and that's kind of the point of going to college and things like that, is finding people. But you're always growing and changing, so college turns into high school in that way. We all take different classes, and the only difference is the campus isn't this big, it's that big. Yeah. So, can't wait to move out of this fucking place. Yeah, and they were just telling me, like, you'll be fine. You'll do great. You don't need to go in the military to find friends. You don't need to be in a war zone to find friends. All this other stuff. I was like, yeah, I guess so, sure. Yeah, so that's kind of it. That's all I got. Anything else I want to say? No, I think I'll save the other stuff for later. Anywho, there are a bunch of ants on me, so I gotta go. Have fun. Don't die. I'll see you. I don't know when I'll see you.